Imagine you open your eyes, like you're coming out from a deep sleep. You feel cold. You realize you're naked. You're naked in a cylindrical room with two other people. Both are dead. You don't know where you are. You don't know what happened to you. And most of all, you don't know who you are. What do you do? Hello, bookworms and potential bookworms. This is Emma, and welcome to Bookworm Undercover, or Ibur an Tekbolle, a channel where I discuss books, movies, anime, and more. The scenario is the premise for the book Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. You may know it from the announcement of the very successful film adaptation with the same name. I recently finished Project Hail Mary even before the movie was released, and I thought that this would be a great start to my channel's content. Just so you know that this video was in planning before the movie came out, and so this video won't contain any information about the film. If you're looking for content about the film itself, you might want to go elsewhere. Now, I'll be going through three things about Project Hail Mary within this video. The first is the use of science in the book, second, the character development, and third, the writing or the prose. Please keep in mind that this video is going to include mild spoilers, so if you don't want to get spoiled, even a little bit, I suggest that you don't watch further. So, let's get into it. I rated Project Hail Mary 4 out of 5. It's one of the most entertaining, funny, and heartwarming books I've read, and I genuinely enjoyed reading the book. One of the best things about Project Hail Mary is how science is written into it. Science fiction, traditionally, relies on science that is more fantastical than practical, real science. But we see the exact opposite of that shown in Project Hail Mary. Ryland Grace, the protagonist, opens his eyes in a cylindrical room. He doesn't know where he is, who he is, and why he's here. One thing he does know is science. The first few chapters of the book is him discovering that he is on a spaceship through a series of experiments that test the gravity of the space he's in. None of the science in the book is made up, though it does have fictional elements to it, such as a fictional unicellular organism and a new material that seems to be stronger than diamonds. The process in which the protagonist discovers information is mostly scientific. Of course, take this with a grain of salt, since I am not a scientist. For example, when Ryland Grace is attempting to find out how astrophage moves around, he creates an environment where he uses a flashlight that emits infrared light, and a space that is isolated from all outside sources of light that he makes from wooden planks and duct tape. Then he shines the astrophage with infrared light under a microscope. The astrophage are found to have moved to a far side of the room. He uses a scientific method to test how astrophage stores and releases energy, while also discovering that the energy from the infrared light and the carbon dioxide in the air allows the astrophage to breed. This is a good example of how practical scientific experimentation drives the discovery of knowledge in the book. The method controls the environment, uses a tool that verifies that the astrophage have moved, and allows for natural scientific discovery. This stands out from many other science fiction books. They usually involve the characters maybe spending a day in the lab with no specific description, or typing something into their computer and finding out everything about the target using some high-tech scanning system. The fact that Project Hail Mary uses real science creates limitations on what the characters can do, how quickly they can do it, and how they discover, create, and use new concepts like alien life. I personally think that this was very refreshing, and since the book isn't filled with scientific jargon, it feels friendly. Project Hail Mary treats its audience like they're intelligent, and lets them in on the actual science of science fiction. Next is the character development. The characters in Project Hail Mary are extremely important. The entire story is told through a first-person limited perspective. There isn't much character interaction until the main character starts recovering their memories and meets an unexpected ally, Rocky. Rocky is a character that we will talk about further on later, but I want to focus on Ryland first. Ryland, as a person, is likable. His internal monologue is humorous. The creative way in which he thinks drives the story forward. He is definitely an active character. From the beginning of the book, he is shown to take risks for the sake of humanity. However, as the scenes go on, we see memories of him prioritizing stability over the greater good, using his occupation as a teacher as an excuse for not going on the mission to save humanity. In a way, we relate to his cowardice and understand the breakdown he experiences when he realizes that coming to space was not his choice. However, this book uses a very unique style of narrative structure that changes how the character develops over the course of the book. The entire book is structured in a sort of back and forth between the past and the present. Ryland has lost all of his memories, meaning that as he discovers them, there are scenes where we get to see the memories that he is reliving. The unique structure the story follows, the constant back and forth between present events and past memories, are used as a device for character development. This is one of the aspects that I thought were unique, and in a way I had never seen flashbacks used like this before, at least not this extensively. The audience is led, though so is Ryland, to believe that Ryland is a brave, righteous character that chose to be on the suicide mission to save Earth. In that way, he feels distant from us. But as he slowly begins to recover his memories, we see this true self from the past. He was a coward. He doesn't want to go on a suicide mission, which is completely understandable. The sudden flaw humanizes his character even further and grants space for internal conflict. Ryland gets to battle with his past, perhaps real self, and the present self he has grown into. I am praising his character development a lot here, but that wasn't necessarily what I thought in the beginning. When I first read the book, he felt kind of flat. There wasn't any dimension to his character until I really thought about it for a while. Because, in the end, he makes different choices that makes him a different character. He chooses to sacrifice potentially his life to save Rocky, something he couldn't do for the entirety of the Earth's 8 billion population. The other central character in this book, though he doesn't appear until much later, is the one I just mentioned, Rocky. Now, this is a major spoiler, so skip over if you need to. Rocky is an Iridian, basically an alien from another planet that was also dying because their sun is dimming. Rocky is the lone survivor of his cruise trip from Erid to Tall City, just like Ryland is the sole survivor of Project Hail Mary. Rocky and Ryland become fast friends as they work together to solve the problem that both of their stars are facing. Rocky isn't a character that changes much throughout the story. He's more of a device to change Ryland. Ryland and Rocky's bond becomes deep enough that Ryland is willing to sacrifice himself to save Rocky. On that note, one of the other things that's interesting about the book is Rocky and Ryland's relationship. They're completely different species, yet they become friends so quickly. They adapt to each other, attempt to understand each other, and in the end, they become inseparable. They're what I would call found family. And the thing is, this doesn't happen often in other science fiction books or scientific fiction media. Though aliens may be shown in a sympathetic light, I don't think a relationship like this has ever been established so strongly, other than maybe E.T. However, here both parties are equals. They are of similar intelligence, they understand each other, and they meet individual to individual. You can probably tell I love their relationship from all of this rambling. But let's move on to the last thing I wanted to talk about. The last thing I wanted to talk about for the book is the prose, or the text itself. This is kind of where I see a lot of the debate on the book diverge. There are a lot of people who think the writing is great, and then there are some people who think it's, well, not so great. Though the prose may be objectively not the most beautiful thing you'll ever read, I believe that the style is extremely effective in this book. The sentences are short, concise, and to the point. They mix humor with a tone that resonates with daily conversation. I think the prose is one of the things that make this book so approachable and fun. However, I understand the people who say that the prose, objectively, isn't beautiful or well woven. I agree that the writing itself is not very descriptive. It's less focused on the beauty of writing and more on the character and the content it's trying to deliver. Still, in the context of Project Hail Mary, a book about an awkward scientist meeting an alien, Andy Weir's style does well in capturing the character's inner monologue in an entertaining way. Well, thank you for listening to me rambling about Project Hail Mary. I hope you got some kind of fun or insight out of this video. Good day!